Hey there, students. Today we're doing another counting video, and this time we're doing an introduction into the 6/8 time signature. This was covered in one of my other piano classes, I think level 2 or level 3 of learning to play piano, or playing the piano rather. But in 6/8, what you need to know about 6/8 is that, well, let me show you. 6/8, unlike 4/4, and 3/4 and 2/4 is really what? It's that it ends in 8, so this implies a bunch of things. Well, one of the things is that now we have 6 beats per measure rather than 4 or any of the other top numbers that we have, 3 or 2 or 4. The bottom number being an 8 instead of 4 indicates now that the 8th note gets 1 beat. So if it ends in a 4, it's a quarter note. If it ends in an 8, it's an 8th note. And if it ends in a 16, it's a 16th note that gets 1 beat. But now that the 8th note gets 1 beat, this kind of changes the whole way of counting. Not completely. I mean, it's not that hard to grasp, but it's certainly something you get used to. Now, an 8th note is worth 1 beat, right? So we can have 6 8th notes in a measure. How many quarter notes can we have? Well, I have it written out for us already. I wrote it out ahead of time today. A quarter note is now worth 2, since there's 2 8th notes that fit in a quarter note. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A dotted quarter was worth 1.5 before. It's now worth 3. So the pattern is now, if you haven't figured it out, is all the note values are now worth double because the 8th note is now worth 1 beat. So that means the quarter note, because there's 2 8th notes in a quarter note gets 2 beats. Because there's 3 8th notes in a dotted quarter note, there are now 3 beats for a dotted quarter note, and a dotted half note, which before got 3, you double it, and it becomes 6. So with the dotted quarters, it's going to be counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now with the dotted half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The dotted half is now, in a way, like the whole note before, because the whole note before took up 4 beats. Well, if we're in 4/4, if we're in 3/4, 2/4, you can't have a whole note because a whole note needs 4 beats to fit into. But the dotted half note now takes up a complete measure, at least in 6/8, just like a whole note did in 4/4. Just know that each of the note values are now doubled. Now, let's see, we have the same, well, similar thing on the next line. So we have 6/8 time signature. No, don't. Here we go. There we go. Now we're cooking with fire. Anyways, so the question is, now how many beats does a half note get? Well, if it got 2 beats before, it's now going to get 4 beats. So we still need 2 beats. How can we fill that in? Well, we can use a quarter note, which is worth 2 beats. Or we could do, let's say, an 8th note. 2 8th notes, rather. Let's say in the next measure we have 3 8th notes. What kind of note would we need to complete this measure? So think about what note is now worth 3 beats. So if you want to figure that out, you ask yourself, well, before, what note was worth 1.5 beats, which is half of 3. And you know that that's the dotted quarter note right here. Let's say we have no whole notes, because remember, a whole note's worth 4, so doubled, it would be worth 8. So you can't have any whole notes. Say we have a half note, which is worth 2, right? And then we have a quarter note and a dotted half note, or no, a dotted quarter note again. Anyway, we should be mapping out how many beats these take up. So back to the first measure. This takes up how many? Yep, 4. So we have beats 5, 6 there. Here we have beats 1, 2, 3. And then like we talked about, 4. Whoops, I should use the right. 4, 5, 6 there. You want to use 2 beats here for the quarter note. Beat 3 here. And then this is beats what? 4, 5. Is that it? No. 4, 5, and 6. Like so. Now, what if we have a 16th note? What if we have 2 16th notes, rather? How many beats now is a 16th note worth? going to be worth a half, right? So remember when we cut a beat in half, we still use the same thing in 6/8. We use the term 1 and, now you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is how you count that measure right there. Anyways, moving on. Is there any other kind of note we haven't really used yet? So now, I guess one of the other notes we can talk about is a dotted quarter note. Not a dotted quarter note, dotted eighth note. Sorry about that. Which is worth what? Well, it was actually worth 3/4 of a beat last time. Now it's going to be worth 1.5 beats. So we have, it's going to be counted just like it is in 4/4. And let's do this, finish out with a dotted quarter note. So now we're going to count 1. This is going to take up beats 1 and 2, right? Because it's worth 3/2 of a beat, or 1.5 beats. And then you have and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And remember, because we have dotted quarter notes, we need to split the beats up in half. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Oh, I was supposed to play that dotted quarter. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so once again 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so that's how you would count that last measure, knowing that the dotted eighth now is like the dotted quarter before, taking up 1 and 2, or 3/2 of a beat, which we've talked about before. So that's pretty much it today for an introduction in a 6/8. We did some very simple stuff, some not so simple stuff. If you don't quite understand, keep watching the video, and I'll come out with more of these to kind of go over it and show you some more about how to count some more difficult rhythms and give you more practice. So anyway, thanks as always for listening and watching, and I'll see you for the next lesson. Thank you.